Welcome to the show, Oscar Hudson. You're a London-born film director. Began making skateboarding videos for friends while studying anthropology at university. Since then, you've honed in on a uniquely technical style to produce award-winning music videos for the likes of Bonobo, Young Thug, and Radiohead, as well as huge brands such as Apple, Nike, and even IKEA. You've picked up numerous awards throughout your career, including Best Director at the UK MTV Music Awards and a Grand Prix at Cannes and a Primetime Emmy as well. Lots to talk about with you, an incredible career as it stands even. And welcome to the show. And please do tell us more.
Yeah, happily.
I know what I want to know about. How did you go from skateboarding videos to music videos?
That's a big shift, actually. Yeah, that's true.
I got to know this path.
It was far from an overnight jump, but skateboarding videos represent the part of my career when I was making films before it was a job. You know, that was just having fun on the streets with friends. And the communicative language of skateboarding is video. So it's what you do. It's just a completely natural part of skateboarding is filming the tricks and making edits of them. And that's the language of skateboarding. And so it's almost a given that there's going to be somebody in every group of skaters who films. Someone who finds a way to get their hands on a camera, gets the biggest fisheye lens they possibly can, duct tape it onto the front of the camera, and learns how to shoot and edit. And that was me in our group. So it was through that initially that I learned some of the more like technical skill set that I use like all the time now. And I got a taste for it. When you have a skill set like that at a fairly young age and people start asking you what you want to do, you start reaching for those easier answers and you start saying you're going to be a filmmaker or an editor or something like that, which I did. And yeah, I guess a picture starts forming about a plan. But as for music videos, you know, I think when you enter the film industry through a certain route, music videos are kind of like an entry level point to getting a budget to make a film. There's an entire, you know, actually, when you really get down to it, quite exploitative industry where people are asked to make music videos for next to nothing, and you're you know, pulling in massive favors and working yourself to the bone on, you know, very low budgets. But it's sort of kind of considered the like proving ground of the short form film industry, and that ultimately leads to sort of the commercial space where there is more money flying about and you can have a bit more of a sustainable career. Got it. But I guess linking the two things together, there is actually a pretty established link between skate video making and music video making. Like some of the best filmmakers working today come from a skateboarding background. Spike Jonze is probably the obvious example of that, but he made some of the most iconic early skate videos before graduating to music videos, before graduating to feature films. And so there is a kind of a recognized path. And I think that comes down to what a skate video essentially is, which is like a, you know, a short form piece of entertainment, always edited to a song. You know, I think the fundamental thing that a skate video is a sequence of tricks, a sequence of short clips of tricks. And that can get quite repetitive, you know, and quite boring. And so skateboarders are often driven to try and find ways to make their skate videos as interesting as possible. And obviously, when you're doing that, the music and the connection between the visuals and the music is super important. And you start thinking deeper about like what it is that makes something flow and how to make a piece compelling and how to make it fit to a piece of music and how it all comes together to make something that feels like more than the sum of the separate parts, just the skateboarding alone or the kind of, you know, the music choice or whatever. But then even beyond that, there's also a tradition within skateboarding of like the skit. So like between skate parts, there'll often be little fun sequences that are kind of just like little concepts. And in a way that they are quite like music videos in themselves. Like it'll just be some kind of fun idea that's executed for a laugh. And so skateboarding is, you know, it's almost a cliche within the music video and commercial industry just for people to talk about the fact that they learn to do things through skateboarding because there's quite a lot of us out there who went that path.
What year around are the skate videos? Like what years?
My ones, I would have been dipping my toe in from about the age of 12, 13. And I did that through most of my teenage years. So that would have been sort of early 2000s through to the late 2000s, really. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think another important part of my like professional journey is that like as I came to the latter part of that period, it sort of coincided, you know, I'm talking sort of like 2008, 9, 2010, 2011, around that kind of time. It sort of coincided with the rise of like the DSLR camera, and which and not to mention like video hosting on the internet. I mean, it seems kind of ridiculous to talk about it in that way, but like video on websites was not. It didn't really, like, YouTube was only found in 2006 or something like that, and I came into this sort of wild west of cheap video production as a kind of one-man band, willing to do whatever for very little money, desperate to get a toehold. And so yeah, that was
I was trying to get a timeline of like when YouTube came into your timeline, and when that was, and then was that a factor? Like, how did you learn different techniques or jargon, or, you know what I mean? Just like, what kind of research did you have to do, or it was just all just trial by error?
Well, YouTube specifically was never really formed an important part of my thing. Like, I never had a YouTube channel, and in fact, at the time when I even might have done, at the time when I was in a point of career where maybe I'd entertain having something like that, that wasn't really the done thing. Not like how it is today. And so I wasn't, you know, it's funny to even talk about it like this, but I was making those skate videos and I wasn't even putting them on the internet. I was just, you know, I'd just make them and we'd watch them on a DVD, and that was just the end of it.
DVD.
Yeah.
How far back is that?
Burn it to disc.
I know, right? Ancient history.
Wow. Well, jump forward 20 some years, and in 2020 you did the Christmas ad for John Lewis and Waitrose, of all things. That's quite a leap. It was quite a sort of famous brand over here in the UK. How did that come about? Did they approach you? Is that something you had to kind of pitch for? How did that come about for you?
Yeah, well, it's both. So typically the way it works in advertising is an advertising agency will approach a handful of directors who they'll have a script already,
right,
or an outline of a script, a kind of a rough idea of what the film is going to be that they've already sold into their client, and then they will then look for a director to do the project. And that's basically what happened. So they approached me and probably a couple of other people, I don't know who, and they sent me their script, and I looked at it and sort of, I say, I like that, don't like that, I think this could be better, I think that could be better. And I basically reimagine their script, or rewrite their script, kind of fleshed out, because often these advertising scripts come through, they have good ideas in them, but they're not really written. I feel like there's a kind of a sort of a realism that you have in your head as a director, and you're like, right, okay, so in order to make these nice ideas work, we have to do X, Y, Z. And yeah, that's how it works. I mean, as for why they approached me, I guess I had made a few, up until that point, I'd made some work that people like, I guess. And I'd done a couple of ads. I'd done a couple of high profile ads that had done very well. To be honest with you, I was initially pretty skeptical about the idea of taking it. I mean, maybe for Skyler and Ryan's benefit and the American audience's benefit, the John Lewis Christmas ad is like, Christmas ads are kind of like our Super Bowl ads here in the UK.
They're
so
huge.
They're a big deal. Huge. And it's like a competitive thing. And the John Lewis one is almost the kind of mothership one of them all.
I've come to know that.
It kind of signals the start of Christmas, really.
That's it.
Talk about the music part of it. Is any of it have any social conscious flavor to it?
Yeah, certainly. And actually, the John Lewis one you're talking about there is a good example of it, because that one in particular, the John Lewis ad, and another kind of annual feature of it is that it's always got a very prominent piece of music in it. And typically it's a cover version of a very well-known track, kind of done in a more sort of Christmassy, whimsical kind of way. But this year, they wanted to do something a bit different. I think because it was the pandemic year where I did it, advertising was going a bit bonkers during the pandemic about like what kind of, how do we sell our stuff when there's a global crisis?
Nobody could go anywhere, right?
Yeah, the whole thing was called Give a Little Love, and the whole idea was kind acts and how like love begets love, and it's like this kind of night, treating people around you with love and kindness. And the song itself was commissioned specifically, I think it was Celeste, who's she's an artist over here,
Okay.
Yeah, British artist. They commissioned her to write this piece of music. So the music was, I guess, aimed at, undoubtedly a kind of socially conscious message. That is a particularly good example of what you're talking about. I think generally speaking, it's not necessarily at the front of people's minds, but I guess it's always just reflective of what the advert's trying to do and say. And they're not always trying to, sometimes they're just trying to sell phones,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Audio is great by itself, visuals great by itself, but together it's amazing. Like you were saying yourself, they go find these pieces of music that fit something, or the other way around. Like what I do songs, and then I go write the video afterwards, right? But I use my lyrics as the script, right? So
Yeah.
I actually want you to see what I'm saying in the middle of the groove, right? And so that's a whole nother thing, because when you're doing a music video, then rather than just doing a movie, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the process of writing music video ideas is always a really interesting one. And I think there's many different ways that different filmmakers and indeed the artists themselves will take to like conceiving of what the visuals are and how that matches to the music. And one approach is like what you're saying, is taking a quite a sort of a more literal thing and using the lyrics as a kind of a script or a basis for what those visuals are. But oftentimes, I know a lot of other filmmakers who have a much more abstract relationship with how they interpret the music, and they go much more on mood and much more on sort of
right.
And sometimes some music doesn't even have lyrics, so you can't do that. So you have to you really do have to draw on the feeling, and music doesn't always work in such direct manners, and so you're left just kind of using whatever feelings or emotions or images that it conjures in you. And sometimes you just find yourself sitting at the desk with your eyes closed and sort of having strange thoughts pop into your head and thinking, "Oh, that'd be good."
Yeah,
that'd be good.
That's a good music video right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a cool gig, man, just to like put music around film. And
yeah, it's doing it that way around. That's a whole other thing again, composing to picture. That's a very interesting process as well, very different. Yeah, and it's funny sometimes you find the filmmaker wants the filmmaker wants the music to hang their pictures off of, and then the composer wants the pictures to hang their music off of. So sometimes I've had the experience of talking with composers ahead of shooting a project, where we both are kind of like sort of like, who's going to go first? Like who wants to like serve,
Yeah.
exactly.
Show their hand. I'm interested in your thoughts of, the rise of vertical 9:16
video.
or 9:16 video. Yeah. Like I'm interested in your thoughts as a filmmaker and the popularity of short form vertical.
Yeah, well, I think there's different ways to look at it. The first way I will look at it is that I mostly encounter 9:16 as a massive production annoyance for me on set when I'm doing a job, and they want me to make them a film that works at multiple different formats and multiple different lengths at the same time. And very often it's kind of an afterthought brought up late in the process when you're like, well, is this shot going to work for 9:16 as well? Because if it doesn't, we have to shoot it twice. And so you end up having
what's 9:16? What does that mean?
So like this shape is 16:9. We're watching on the Zoom screen is 16:9. That's like the standard video format. When you watch vertical video, that's 9:16.
Like TikTok.
So TikTok and Instagram.
Man, you guys are so far ahead of me, man. I feel like a turtle.
I work in social media, and I actually edit a lot of vertical video for clients, and it's because I'll get the raw footage, and I'm like, all right, well. So I was just wondering about somebody who's primarily, obviously 16:9 horizontal landscape, just the annoyances. Yeah, that's what I was kind of alluding to.
That's the more like practical, grumpy way of talking about it. But I think there's another probably more interesting way of talking about it. That's about like, what kind of stories fit better on a vertical screen versus a horizontal screen, and like the evolution of format in general and the way that people consume things these days. Like, when we, used to watch films in the cinema a lot more. In fact, that's the only way you'd consume films. And that actually has a massive effect on how you choose to frame shots and how close you want close-ups to be, and how much image you're able to take in from a wide shot. So much bigger, you're able to appreciate the background a lot more or whatnot. Whereas when you're watching something on a phone, you have to, if you want a close up to have that impact, you have to be so much closer in. You have to be like right in on the face and eyes to get that like big close up connection. And all of these things, they feed into the process. You know, the medium, it dictates to the process so directly. And so, you know, a vertical frame is a great frame for a human body, but a human body alone, like, it's not so good when you want to start doing more than one person. And funnily enough, I think that kind of speaks to something about the experience of watching something on your phone as well. It's not a format that's about like collective situations. It's great if you want to see someone's face nice and close or see someone's body, but you could, it's much harder to tell stories because stories involve the world around you.
Wow. Yeah. What are you working on now?
Well, right now I'm writing a script, a feature film script. I've had in the sort of second half of this year, I hurt my knee playing football quite badly, and I've had two operations on it. I tore my ACL, meniscus, various things, and so that has by necessity kind of like slowed me down a little bit and stopped me from being on set really. So, but in a way, it's not a bad thing. I mean, at least it's my silver lining of having to spend a lot of time on my ass is that I can finally get some time to do some writing, which is where I want to go next in my career, really, into feature films and start making long form stuff. So nice, you know, I think you take advantage of torn knee ligaments when they present themselves to you.
Yeah.
Listen, Gus, thank you for coming on. Thank you for the privilege of your time to come on our show, man. Thank you.
Thanks for joining
us.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Pleasure.
Right on.
Thank you so much for watching. To stay up to date, please click subscribe and hit the bell. You can also join our group on Facebook and find us on LinkedIn and Instagram.